Hey everyone, namaste. This is the star weather forecast for September 2024, which I titled Tallying, Updating, and Reorganizing. So, the previous month, August, we went through Jupiter and Mars conjunction, which brought a lot of a good fight, but it is a good fight that brought us an alliance, the feeling that we are attracting the right team and we're building the right team for us to be able to continue the good fight, for us to fight for the beliefs, to fight for where we stand, to fight for what we really believe in and what is required for our sense of inner security. And of course, that includes fighting for the betterment of our clan, of our family, either that's in terms of political clan, political family, the presidential battle is full on in this United States, but it could translate into fighting for your just family, or fighting for your community, fighting for the group that you belonged in. So that was August. And now that we've gone through a series of transformation, which is the good fights, in September, we prepared to enter a phase of cooperation and grace in face of new shifts and rounds of upgrades together. So let's go ahead and look at a list of astrological events in September. So right on the 1st, I'm recording on the 1st, we have Uranus retrograde. And then Pluto retrograde, Pluto's already in retrograde. It now re-enters Capricorn. It's backing up into Capricorn again, into 29 degrees of Capricorn. And then on the 2nd, it's new moon Virgo. On the 3rd, Mars square Neptune, as well as Venus conjunct South Node, which we're going to talk about. And then on the 4th, Mars enter Cancer. On the 9th, Mercury enter Virgo. And on the 14th, Venus trine Jupiter, which is wonderful. On the 15th, Mars square the nodes. 17th, full moon lunar eclipse, partial. 22nd, Sun enters Libra. Also on the 22nd, Venus enters Scorpio. And on the 29th, Mars trine Saturn. And we're also going to talk about that. Forgot to underline it. That's also a beautiful aspect. But first, let's get to the Venus conjunction with South Node. That's going to happen on the 3rd. And this is for us in the West Coast time zones. I think it's California, Oregon, Washington, parts of Mexico, Baja, Mexico, I believe, and Baja, California, that is. And then it also includes West Coast Canada, obviously. So we have Venus conjunction with South Node right there in the 8th house, right on the heels of a Virgo new moon in the 7th house on September 2nd. I'm not showing the Virgo new moon. Just know that the conjunction is between sun and moon is the new moon. And it happened the day before September 3rd. And this happened in the 7th house. So this speaks to the release and transformation of old relational patterns and entering a new relational paradigm. And I feel like I keep repeating these relational themes, and it feels like, are we out of this? Is there something new? And sorry, this is just the theme for the entire year, clearing out the gunk in our relationships, revamping our relationships. It's a very Venusian year. So I feel like no matter what astrological event we're looking at, it's really hard to get out of that context. But it's not like we want to. It's nice to be able to really take a look at our relationships, alliances in our lives, and make sure that they're working properly. So this is the perfect opportunity for a relational reorg. So with Pluto, in terms of this chart, with Pluto retrograding in the ascendant, looking to Saturn, because it's in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, looking to Saturn, and Saturn in Pisces is looking to Jupiter. Jupiter ruled by Mercury, or Jupiter in Gemini ruled by Mercury, goes back to Mercury, and Mercury in Leo ruled by Sun, which goes back to the Sun along with the Virgo new moon. What this means is we're consciously taking inventory of debts, debits, and credits in our partnerships, and seeking to balance the books for the sake of the health and longevity of any relationships that are operating in our lives, again, either personal or business. And even though we are tallying, you know, a lot of Virgo tallying going on, we're doing it in goodwill instead of in acrimony. This is actually good. So for the relationships that we have been working to improve and elevate, this is where we begin to do the work to balance out the karma so that it comes to an equilibrium as required by the Venus and South Node conjunction. And with the Virgo new moon just happening just the day prior, there would be precision in the actions that we take to achieve this balance. And where we need to make amends, we would approach it with a spirit of generosity and magnanimity, with Mercury and Leo in the 7th house, trining Chiron in the 4th. So what we're talking about is, let me just mark that, that's where we left off. Venus, South Node over here, you know, having jumped through the different planets and the different houses, what all of this is pointing to is Venus in South Node, and the South Node Lord, which is Venus conjuncting the South Node itself. It's giving us the chance to balance out the books. And we know it's karmic because it's South Node. So it's asking us to take a look at any relationships in our lives where, you know, maybe in the past, we've taken 10 and we've promised 5 in return, but we haven't given that 5 in return yet. And it's going to ask us to do that now. And the great thing about this chart is that we're going to want to do it willingly, especially with Mercury in Leo in the 7th house. That's where the magnanimity comes in, where we feel like, you know, we actually want to be generous. You know, we actually want the exchange, our actions and our gestures to be generous. And we want to appear magnanimous. So that means we do it with an open heart. That means we willingly give in a spirit of goodwill, which is really, really nice. So we're doing this willingly and very naturally. So we're not going to skimp on expressions, and we would make sure that our relational debts are paid in practical terms, as in it's actual financial remits, exchanges. We're providing services and resources that were promised. So while the gestures are not necessarily verbal, they would be very practical and tangible, because it touches the 2nd house, it touches the 6th house, going into 7th and 8th, which are, you know, finances, resources that are very tangible. The shadow manifestation of the Venus South Node conjunction in the 8th house with natural ruler Pluto in the ascendant would be karma imposing balance upon us. And it's either we like it or not, even though from what I've seen, I really feel like we're actually going to be willing. It's just that, are we conscious of it? Are we conscious of us needing to pay somebody back or us needing to ask for repayment now? It's just a matter of, are we conscious of it or not? Of course, in extreme cases, maybe there are cases where we really don't want to be in that reciprocation. We don't want to make amends. And then during this period with Venus and South Node conjunction, we can't avoid it. Just whatever we gave out, it's going to be served to us. And not many of us are saints, so it is possible to be experiencing a mix of voluntary and involuntary circumstances. But suffice to say, when opportunity presents itself to achieve a more justifiable balance from now until Pluto re-enters Aquarius on November 19th, the suggestion here is to consciously relish the opportunities so that we can move forward into 2025 with a healthy cycle of give and take and positive circulation with all of our partnerships and support systems. And like I said, that's why we're going through this shift in relationships in 2024, sort of needing to clarify for us, okay, in this Aquarian new age, what does relationships look like for me? What does my partnerships look like for me? And what do I need to set up in terms of my partnerships? And what alliances do I need to build to set up for the Aquarian age? You know, once Pluto exits Capricorn completely and it moves into Aquarius, our lives are going to look very different. And then when Uranus exits Taurus completely and move into Gemini, it's not going to for another I think 2 years. Don't quote me on it. I think Uranus formally goes into Gemini 2025 and 26, forgot which year. I think it's 26. Again, our lives are going to shift. But right now, we are, again, clearing out the gunk. As I've said, it's this full year, we're clearing out the gunk and reorganizing in terms of our relational foundations. And we need relationships for us to feel a sense of safety, for us to build that inner foundation. So all of the events, astrological events that we've talked about through the year, they all touch on the Venusian Libran partnership themes in one way or another. So when the opportunity comes, especially during September, as you know, the universe is allowing this Virgoan precise exacting energy to assist us in seeing where we might need to give back a little more and where we might need to open ourselves up to receive what's owed to us, do so. And the great thing is that we're going to find it easy. We're going to find it fluid and flowing. We're going to find it natural for us to have that back and forth with the alliances and partners that we've gained so far. So enjoy, even though it is about tallying, even though it is about keeping the karmic books straight and clean, we do it with willingness. We do it with open-heartedness, which I really enjoy about September. You know, after August, the Jupiter and Mars conjuncting, and I forgot what other squares that we were dealing with, but it was definitely a little more warrior-like. It's a little more on the defense. It's a little more, I have to throw my ideas out in your face, or that I have to stand firm, like, thou shall not cross. Um, this is my limits in terms of this alliance, this partnerships. Of course, we can talk, but it's more uh me hashing things out with thou. And now, after that round of hashing, it's now more about the actual tallying. And we've moved we've sifted out the kinks. We've worked on the relational kinks to a point where now we're both open-hearted. All parties are open-hearted enough so that when we actually do the tallying, it feels right. It feels good. It feels like our hearts are still connected and that there's no malice on either sides. And we're able to own up to what we owe, and also own up what is owed to us to be able to receive. So in that way, that's why I'm looking forward to September. It's a really nice back and forth, to and fro. Okay, so yeah, and so most importantly, when it's our turn to call in on our debts and take what is owed to us, the chart also asks of us to take openly, knowing that a healthy circulation helps the world go round. So for those of you who are all about giving, 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 remember, you know, as you give, it takes that receiving for, you know, for the infinity cycle to loop around, for the circulation to flow. So for those who are used to giving, remember to receive. And the only minor caveat is that with South Node ruler Mars in the 5th and 6th house squaring Neptune, that's this right there, Mars at the cusp of 5th and 6th house squaring Neptune in the 2nd house. The caution here is to avoid extremes of overgiving or under receiving, as we've just talked about. But this condition should subside quickly as Mars move into Cancer on September 4th, and Mercury ingress into Virgo September 9th. And then we would be a little more judicious around our resources. So I don't foresee the extreme circumstances of overgiving, under receiving to be long lasting, because eventually we become very logical about it. When it's time for us to give, we give. When it's time for us to receive, we receive. So either way, for the next 2 months, be conscious about a healthy and satisfying give and take from all parties, and watch out for opportunities to offset any debts owed and to go into action gently so that we still honor our limits and boundaries. We're not asking people to give without your boundaries, to give without having compassion and love for yourself. It's still giving and loving with the right boundaries and limits. And remember, the point of balancing isn't about bringing the relationship to a static equilibrium. It's not like an eye for an eye, as in, oh, you gave 10, so I have to give back 10. Then the relationship becomes static. Then there's no emotional flow. It's just strictly balancing the books. And that's not what Libra is about. That's not what relationship is about. A healthy Libra scale and reciprocal relationship is one that moves fluidly and rhythmically and is able to give and receive in increasing amounts through mutual learning and appreciation. so that we can enjoy this back and forth movement in between. So it literally is like an infinity sign. So what we're doing is we give and we take, and we start small, we start gentle, so that there's time for the other party to react, for the other party to reciprocate. And then as the other party reciprocates, then we can maybe go out on a limb and give a little more this time, and then wait and see if they are able to reciprocate. And then we do the back and forth, potentially bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is essentially team building. That is essentially building trust. And this is, you know, with relationships, this is the same in intimate relationships and the same in business. You don't go all out all at once in the beginning and then feel like, oh, I'm hurt when the other person couldn't reciprocate or couldn't reciprocate within the time frame that for some reason I had it in my head to expect. So build up slowly, even when it's your turn to give back little by little, so that you are not infringing on your own boundary and you're not infringing on the other person's boundary, because sometimes there are reasons why the other person is not in a receiving mode, and we honor that too. We all have our own different personal timings. And so being gentle with this giving and receiving allows the other to test out for themselves where their receiving and giving boundaries are. So just wanted to put that in there. Then on September 14th, we have Venus trine Jupiter. Love it. This happens once a year, like Venus conjunct Jupiter. And it's just one of those aspects where if we don't know astrology, it would just be like a day that flows smoothly without our conscious knowing. But because we're conscious of it, of astrology, we can milk it. We can actually milk it and enjoy this sweet and beautiful aspect. And this time, as you can see, the Jupiter and Venus trine is right there. At the same time, there is a grand kite that's formed with the Sun, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So this aspect here is formed, the minor trine here is formed by the 3 outer planets. And this is going to go on for up to when Pluto re-enters Aquarius, I think around Thanksgiving time. So this little triangle here is going to remain with us for September, October, for about two and a half months. Let's just say 3 months. So again, this is a lovely chart to have in the middle of the month with Venus still in the home sign of Libra, and Venus stays in Libra up until September 24th. And Venus supports Jupiter expansions and in making improvements around the home as it looks to Mercury in the 4th. Again, we're starting with Jupiter here and jumping to Mercury in the 4th. And because Mars is in Cancer 2nd, Mars right there in Cancer 2nd, we might expect expenses around these improvements, especially when it comes to switching out older appliances, fixtures for the new, or voluntarily upgrading any hardwares around the family sphere to assist in communication and efficiency in daily routines. I know it sounds really mundane, but that's what the chart is saying to me, at least. So that's I have to spit it out. I have to interpret it as such. It could be, you know, as simple as switching out the phone system for your home, so that it's now connected to the internet instead of using the landline, something like that, so that you improve communication with family members. And yeah, I want to mention this configuration between Jupiter, Mercury, Mars may not come cheap, but it is in service to the sign of the times, as the sun is supporting a systematic overhaul of old beliefs, subconscious routines, social habits in preparation for the Aquarian age. So that's what Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in a minor trine is about. And notice all these three outer planets are in retrograde. So again, it is clearing out. Retrograde is when we redo something. So it is clearing out what is no longer working for us in our lives, sort of the pre-Aquarian age. What needs to be updated so that we can welcome this new age. And of course, you know, it's the age of AI, it's the age of technology, it's the age of new forms, new ways of communication, a more direct connection to source in our each individual way, and a more justifiable distribution of power in all levels of life, in terms of national level, national level, state level, community level, down to a family level. So while these three are in retrograde, it's asking us to release the old technologies that are not working for us anymore. And it's inner technology and outer technology. And with this chart, I am seeing more of a release in the outer technology, the actual technology around us. Around our homes, so that we can actually support this new form of communication, this form of relating, this new form of distribution of information much better in terms of the family unit. And this also, because fourth house comes into play, this also relates to how we can feel more secure in the future, along with the advent of changes of how we communicate. The hardware needs to catch up so that we can feel more secure and safer, because when we stay stagnant, we're not going to feel secure. I know it's really, this is difficult. It's chicken and egg and very paradoxical, but paradoxical, forgot which one. But it's almost like there's going to be a lot of fear in upgrading to a new technology. But if we don't upgrade to a new technology, we inherently know that we are going against what Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in retrograde and in trine, sextile and trine, in minor trine position, is asking us to do. And that causes, again, fear and insecurity. So personally, I would rather take the fear of upgrading ourselves, upgrading our lives, which means accepting new technology, saying goodbye to old forms of communication, saying goodbye to old forms of relating to one another, than staying stagnant, because it's like cooking a frog in warm water, right? Frogs don't really, I don't know why, it's like frogs don't really, they're not alarmed when if you put frog in the water, and for some reason, if you just sort of boil the water very slowly, the frog won't notice it until it's too late to jump out of the boiling water. And this is the same thing. I'd rather that you be conscious about updating your lives, specifically the hardwares around your home, around your family, to to get onto today's technology than trying to upgrade it too late in the future, right? It's the same thing as, let's say you have a new laptop where with these days, we have to switch out laptops every 3 years, 5 years to the max, because that's how progress works and company works, is that they stop updating the software for your hardware after 3 to 5 years. And the universe is doing the same thing. This is a just very reflective of how the universe is working, or has been working, is that we have to upgrade the hardware. We have to keep up with the hardware so that the newest softwares can be uploaded with the right hardware specs. It's a no-brainer, but I'm just saying that with this chart, with this aspect, with Jupiter, Venus right there, this is a very, very supportive time for us to do this without having pushback from our partners. And I'm going to talk about conditions with that, but this is a time where we get to have an overhaul of what is working for our family, what is not, what do we need to get rid of, or even just clearing out the garage and throwing away, the old PCs, or throwing away the old lawnmowers, in exchange for something more efficient, more green, more energy saving, or even just switching out the old refrigerator, those old ones that could be running for a long time but are not energy efficient anymore, switching out stuff like that. It sounds very easy, but hey, if we're supported to do this, why not? So yeah, upgrade the technologies around us in order to support the upgrades to our inner paradigms in tandem. So the upgrades external upgrades needs to happen in tandem with our internal upgrades, and vice versa. So notice any inspirations that come up mid-month that calls for us to replace something or upgrade something. It would be things in the most practical of terms. We are in Virgo season. It's going to be so practical. Like, why do I need astrology to tell me this? And the truth is, you don't. That's what I've been saying. Maybe I'm the only one who believes it's like, you do not need astrology to live a good life. You really, really don't. What astrology helps us, at least helps me with, is becoming conscious of these energies so that we could flow more intentionally with these energies. But if you're naturally in tune with your environment, you're grounded within yourself, in your body, heck no, you don't need astrology to live a good life. I may be the only astrologer who's willing to admit that, but it's true. It's true. So use this information to assist you in becoming more conscious so that we can flow with life, so that we can have more satisfaction, so that we can be more aware in being co-creative with the energetic flows of the season. So so it would be things in the most practical terms, methods and paradigms of communications in the more abstract. So if it's really not about things, then it's methods of communication, or relational paradigms, communication paradigms, how we communicate with each other. I don't have an exact example for this, but just sort of upgrading how you communicate with each other and Mars does square the nodes. So there may be some consideration needed to integrate the needs of the individual and the collective, because Mars is right there straddling between South Node in the 5th house of personal creativity and needs versus North Node in the 11th house, which is the needs of the collective. So Mars is required to balance that out. But this is a much calmer Mars than the Mars that we had to deal with when Mars was in conjunction with Jupiter in Gemini last month. So for this Mars, the most extreme case is passive aggressiveness. With Mars in Cancer is passive aggressive. With Mars and Jupiter conjunction Gemini, it is just verbal warfare. But Mars now coming out to Cancer, not that much upfront contention. It's more of a, to the extreme, more held back, more suppressed. So if we're talking about extreme cases, notice when you start to get really passive aggressive in terms of wanting to manipulate others to get what you want, you know, South Node in the 5th house, wanting to make sure that you get to express your creativity, let out your creativity with whatever it is that you want to update around your home, or even to preserve your own ego and vanity. That's possible too, versus what is truly good for the community. So notice when there's passive aggressiveness coming out and integrate that. That's why we learn astrology, to be able to be conscious of these potential shadow signs that may come up, and to really be compassionate with ourselves when that does happen, may happen, and to be able to release it and say, okay, I'm gonna take a break right now. With Mars and Cancer, if you find yourself like the fire's burning up, you know, be sure to take a break. You know, with Cancer, go take a shower, take a bath, something watery, something that releases your emotions, because Cancers can suppress themselves a little too much. With Mars and Cancer, it's like a lot of suppressed anger when you don't get what you want from the 5th house. It's like, oh, okay, we're changing out, let's say we're changing out our what's a good example? Like one of those home Alexa, for example, Google Alexa, we're upgrading, let's say, to a new model, and there's this more affordable unit versus the more, you know, the vanity unit, where it comes with a lot of functions that the family may or may not need. It would be good to have, but the family may or may not need. This is when you would have to take care of yourself, especially when Mars in the 2nd house. Be careful not to have those vanity purchases, or at least purchase something that you can return later. Of course, don't abuse it, because when you abuse the return policies, it raises the base price for all of us. Don't abuse it. So, you know, come in, use that Mercury in Virgo well. Just do what you can to really settle your emotions, and then do the Virgo or Mercury in Virgo thing of actually tallying the pros and cons of getting the base model versus the vanity model. Who knows? You may end up with, everybody could end up agreeing with getting the vanity buy, because it fulfills these needs in terms of the collective, you never know. But the point being that you may need to do, again, some sort of a pros and cons tallying exercise so that you honor what you want and you honor what the collective needs. Okay. Yeah, as I said, as Mercury is out of retrograde and level-headed Virgo, if the trade-offs are in good balance, listed out with Mercury and Virgo, it's very helpful to organize your thoughts on paper. It really helps when you can visually see it and organize thoughts in terms of words and numbers. It's great for Virgo season. And it hits the value, timing, practicality bullseye, then go for the shifts and updates around the home and or daily routines that support your sense of inner security. Okay, by the end of the month, we have Mars trining Saturn on September 29th and forming a grand trine with Venus in Scorpio 6. So we have Saturn and Mars trining, which forms a grand trine. It's a weaker trine between Mars and Venus and Saturn, but it gets stronger as Venus moves towards the 14, 15 degrees of Scorpio. But they are in a beautiful trine. As you can see, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto remain in this minor trine through November. Like this triangle will be there for a while. So that lets me know for the next 2 months, 2.5, 3 months or so, our lives are shifting and different, are upgrading. Our lives are being tallied, updated, reorganized in order for us to welcome the Aquarian age, to welcome the new paradigms that are coming when Pluto re-enters Aquarius for the last time in our lives. So this speaks to a very similar theme of transforming daily routines so that our resources and monies can be funneled toward correct use, as defined by generational needs and shifts in accordance to the requirements of the outer planets of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So you might be reorganizing your investments because, again, Mars is just highlighted in the second house for this month for some reason. It's highlighted in the second house of resources and looking to the 8th house of investments. So we want to be reorganizing your investments where it is appropriate and joint finances at this time. Or for some of you, second house has to do with actually jobs. I know 6th house and 10th house usually is the house of work and career, but second house gives us that foundational security of actually having a job, actually having the skills to get a job. That's second house. So we might be upgrading our investments in terms of our upskilling or in terms of what we want to do in terms of continuing education. So stuff like that, shifting things around so that we are ready for the new age. Or, financially speaking, at least updating your record keeping, your bookkeeping, so that you know where you stand financially. Again, especially, I know by this time, September 29th, the sun is in Libra. So this is on the tails of the Virgo season after having done the tallying, after having done the balancing and updating of our home communications, our home technologies, actual technologies around the home. Now we go into the realms of our joint finances, what we want to do together. So the good news is, as opposed to hashing out any changes with involved parties like we had to in August, we now have this full support of our partners. Again, that's the theme of Venus, or no, sorry, not Venus, Mercury and Sun conjuncting in Libra with this chart. We have the full support of our partners. We have the energies that allow us to be in fluid communication with our partners so that we get to hash out the details of these changes in joint finances and our personal resources, how we distribute our personal resources with our partner as one unit. You know, the best, very simple example, like let's say you have as a unit, you're using like some travel credit card, let's say just Chase Sapphire, you know, something like that. And this month you're like, is this how, you know, we're going to be using, is this the best use of our resources? Because that card is not cheap. So is this the best use of resources, or do we want to use those membership fees and invest that somewhere else? It may not be this, it could be something less or something even more, but it's kind of like that, where you come together as a unit to decide if this is the best financial model for you to move forward with. Or like, you know, before you were using a certain tax software, and now, you know, maybe that tax software doesn't align to how you communicate with your friends or not friends, your family members anymore. And you're going to have to update that tax software to something else, to something newer. So, you know, updating the software, updating the financial instruments so that you do become more efficient. So something like that. Again, as opposed to August, where, you know, you might butt heads with your foundational beliefs. You might butt heads in terms of your different perspectives. In this month, you are working together, like you gain that foundational understanding and mutual agreement in your foundational beliefs and values. And now what you're doing is to figure out the different details, the different options, and listing them out and making sure that you've weighed the pros and cons together based on your shared values to make that decision to go a different direction, another direction. And so even though it is work, it's work that we can relish because we're doing it together. Like now we get a sense that we're on the same boat doing this together. So that feels really good. And that's why I'm really looking forward to September. Yeah, so previously you had to work out the kinks and work on rapport with people. And now we work on the needs of the situation itself to benefit the self and the collective. So before, it's more of a not me against thou per se, but me needing to negotiate with thou. And now there's a good rapport between us. What we're going to do is that we're negotiating within the situation. Like we're now side to side, shoulder to shoulder. And now we only have to figure out the kinks within the issue itself, within the reorganizing itself, the upgrades and the reorganizing itself. So that's that. So overall, the energies of September is much calmer than August. Make good use of Venus and Libra, which already started from August 29th to September 21st. And it's trine with Jupiter September 14th to tally, update, and reorganize. It's three-pronged. Tally, update, and reorganize with the support of the alliances that you've now gained and concretize in August. And we're still going through a series of internal and external upgrades this month. I would say more so external. The internal ones, I'm saying internal because it is true with this minor trine with Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, it's more like because the values of society is changing, the priority of society is changing, and how we relate to each other in society overall is changing. With these three outer planets, the changes are top down. The changes are already in osmosis, as in the era is shifting, the times are shifting. The new waves are catching on to the old waves and surpassing the old wave. Either we like it or not. This is just within our energetic environment, energetic osmosis. We gain by the environmental osmosis. So with that change, our internal value systems will automatically change, or else we are we're going to be, what is that word? We're going to be outdated if we resist the change. So here's the thing. The change is automatic. The internal shifts are automatic as long as we don't resist it. So what's more important during this time, especially up to November, shifts are going to happen for sure. What's important is for us to remain open, for us to remain curious. Curiosity is so important. It's like, come from an awareness, observer. Yeah, I love this phrase, observer consciousness. I learned it from astrologer Deborah Silverman. I think I have her name correct, but I heard it from her first, where we want to come from the observer consciousness, where we are being curious of, wow, I'm feeling this shift. I'm feeling like I'm changing. I'm feeling like, wow, my values have shifted. What are priorities? What were priorities for me before are no longer priorities now. We're like, oh, I have this impulse to try this new technology for my home, even though it feels like, and how I've operated up to this point, I've never needed the support of this technology. Or I've never needed to change my family accounting system. But now I feel like, I feel this shift, I feel this wave. So instead of pushing that away, the invitation is to be curious about this feeling and to be curious about possibilities, to go into the realm of possibilities and test things out. There are trial periods for all sorts of things. And, at least companies in the US have set things up where you get a return window, a return period, refund window, where you get to try things out to see if you like it or not. So make use of it, not abuse it, but make use of it so that you are changing with the time, so that you are along with this transformation, this osmosis. You open yourself up, open your pores up to this osmosis towards the new that is going to be brought on by Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. And then you'll start to see, okay, by Thanksgiving time, after trying out all of these accounting softwares, I think I'm gonna go with this because this feels like this is where um it would support sort of our the new ways of doing our family finances. This will best support our family finances, or this would best support how we communicate as a family, as in maybe this program allows all family members to see expenses not only monthly but weekly, so that we are on track with each other. We are on track with our budgeting goals. Something as practical as that, but it's significant. It's significant, you know? It's the changes are coming on all sides in terms of the external, the external environment changing, technologies being upgraded, how we relate to each other being upgraded, how we can relate to each other being upgraded. And there's going to be a period of trial and error up to when Pluto formally enters Aquarius this Thanksgiving, mid to late November. So use this trial period to really be open to these shifts. Yeah, so because things are going to shift and they're going to keep shifting, because we're going to keep doing this trial and error, we're going to keep reorganizing and seeing where we stand in terms of our finances, how we receive our resource, how we use our resources. Be patient with the process. Don't have the expectation of needing to stick to one thing right away. If it's like replacing out an old refrigerator, then that's fine. But if it's something that affects, let's say, family planning, affects family finances, then allow the sort of allow yourself to be open up to the universal energies and allow inspirations to rise and allow time for all of these sort of unseen resources to combine with the more palpable resources so that they can really integrate within you and be manifested from you gradually. And as they gradually come into focus, and you'll get like a very concretized yes on this option, no on this option, no on this option, yes on this option, closer to November. So that's what I see for September, and absolutely enjoy the company of those who are next to us on the ride. Yeah, I would say after a more contentious summer, July and August, for September, even though we're still busy, again, it's tallying, updating, reorganizing. At least we feel like we now have people on our side with very similar values to do this with us. So really, really cherish that. So hope that was helpful. I'm actually just going to close right there. I really can't wait for September. It's with Venus and Jupiter trine. Of course, there are always difficult aspects in any given month, but we also want to milk the fluous aspects, the sweet aspects, so that we can co-create with the universe. We can co-create with our partners in a more satisfying way. And it's like we really want to remember these good times. And that's what astrology is great for too, where we get to be conscious of when a day is actually going smooth, when communication with our loved ones and our partners are actually going great. We really want to take note of it and file that memory away and into our long-term memory. And this is for, again, the long-term health of our relationships. So can't wait for September, and good luck with all of you, and enjoy this calmer, more peaceful month. So thank you so much, you guys, and I'll see you guys in another video. Namaste.